Welcome to Education Now. I'm your host, David Jefferson Jr. And as always, we're glad to have you with us, and we're glad that you've joined us. Stacey Love is the principal of Thurgood Marshall Elementary School in Irvington School District, located in Irvington, New Jersey. And for those of you who do not know, Thurgood Marshall Elementary School is
a place where excellence is the expectation. At Thurgood, everyone is family, and we hold each other to extremely high standards. It's a place that you will feel welcome, you'd feel nurtured, and definitely as a parent, you'd want to get involved because you can see genuine care for your student, for your child.
very good. And with that being said, we are taping this on May 19th, 2020. The situation of the COVID-19 pandemic has struck our world with a blind side to the regularity of life as we know it. Our existence has changed, and it is ever changing, to say the least. There's a lot that is going on as it relates to distance learning, and there's a lot that's going on with virtual school systems. And to kick off, I kind of want to ask the question, why you? Why you as the principal at this time of Thurgood Marshall Elementary School?
Well, I actually came aboard in September of 2019. It was time for a change, and definitely Thurgood had a very strong principal before me, and I know that I had big shoes to fill. The population is one that's very sensitive in that I have 120 pre-K students, and I have over 40 autistic students. And in a time like this, you really do need someone who is committed to the continuity of education, especially for our most fragile learners. We put together a team that is committed to providing daily service. For our autistic students, we have OT and PT on a daily basis. We offer speech therapy on a daily basis. We honor the IEPs to the best of our ability. And so far, I'm very pleased to say that our students are being served at the highest level of care possible, given the conditions that we're living in today.
And let me just, ground the audience a little bit. I've had the pleasure of not only knowing Stacey for some time now, but also of being in, her space at Thurgood Marshall Elementary School. And when you walk into the building, it is an environment that invites you into a creative learning space. But more importantly, I believe she is one of those individuals who's more of a thermostat than a thermometer. She sets the tone, which is a wonderful tone for learning. Tell us a little bit, if you will, about your background. I know you hold your bachelor's from Jersey City State College, which is formerly, now known as, if you will, New Jersey City University. You hold a master's degree in educational administration from Kane University. And I know you're working on your educational doctorate as well, and you'll be you're a candidate for your educational doctorate. Tell me about your background. How did you come to education?
Well, this is a field that definitely chose me. Growing up, I don't even know if I would have been considered college material. It was always beat in my head that I was going to college, but truthfully, I had no desire to go. And I ended up at Jersey City State, and I loved it. I loved learning. I loved the sociology was my major, and I loved learning about people. However, just going to college with no direction is it wastes a lot of money. It wastes a lot of time. So I actually sat down and I talked to the director of admissions, and he told me about a program called the Project to Recruit Interested Minorities in Education. And what that is, Project Prime. And there were 25 of us. who were basically guided and nurtured and pushed to do well in school, to maintain very high GPAs with the promise of a job upon graduation and fulfillment of your loans. So, as far as college was concerned, the loans would have been forgiven as long as I became a teacher. And I felt that was a pretty good deal. I got to stay at a place that I love to stay because I really did love college.
Mm.
And now it's free. And as a result, like I said, you get a job and your loans are paid off. So I started off in the Newark Public Schools teaching middle school mathematics.
Mm.
Um, Very challenging, but again, something that I loved. I didn't even know that I was uh, someone who loved math. I ended up getting a certificate in middle school mathematics education from Montclair State, and I became one of the first algebra teachers in Newark. And then I became a staff developer, and I worked with a wonderful principal named Wilma Bell, who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and that was leadership. So Miss Bell would have me sit with her in her office. I did principal reports all the time. When she was out, I would cover the building. And mind you, I'm about 27 years old doing these things, and I decided that maybe this is something that I want to stick with. Instead of fulfilling the loans, I decided maybe I should stay in this field,
Mhm.
which led me to get my master's. And after I got my master's, I moved on to Irvington. I went to Irvington High School as an assistant principal. I stayed there, and I've been now in administration for over 20 years.
Wow. Once again, we are with Stacey Love, the principal of Thurgood Marshall Elementary School in Irvington School District, located in Irvington, New Jersey. And at this time, we are, you know, shifting and moving and sojourning our way through this pandemic. Um, and given everything that we've talked about so far, I want to do a wellness check with my guests. How are you doing? Before we get into some deeper dialogue as relates to education, how are you doing? How are things going? How are you and your family?
Well, that's a good question because I have a unique situation where I'm the principal of a school that we're basically just moving into the virtual learning arena. We're 3 weeks in, and I'm also a parent of students who attend that school. So I get it from two perspectives. I feel what the parents are feeling as far as the angst and the not knowing a lot about Google Classroom. And I get it from the teacher's perspective. It's a very unique situation. So, how am I doing? I'm doing very well considering. Like, I've done the trainings. I feel a lot more comfortable now that I've got a couple hours under my belt as far as Google Classroom is concerned.
Mhm.
And I feel good as far as helping my kids here
Yeah.
because I know what the expectations are. I know where to look for assignments. I know how to tell if they're missing. So a lot of things that I wouldn't normally know because of the training, I really do know how to navigate that platform very well. I feel comfortable helping teachers navigate through the platform as well. Um, so yeah, it's difficult, but it's definitely possible.
Mm.
It seemed insurmountable initially because there was a lot given in a short amount of time, but
Yeah.
I really do feel built for this. I'm comfortable, and when you're comfortable explaining how to do, um, your my teachers have more confidence in me. I have more confidence in myself. And again, like I said, I'm also on the parent end. I know what they're experiencing as well. So I feel comfortable walking parents through getting online and navigating through this whole Google suite.
Once again, we're with Stacey Love, the principal of Thurgood Marshall Elementary School, Irvington, New Jersey. You speak about this distant learning, distance learning. You speak about home instruction. Our Commissioner Repillette, recently made a great comment where he said, the challenge right now and empowering our educators is almost like, likened unto gassing a flying plane. It's a challenge. How are you doing with empowering and encouraging your educators to be effective in this time period?
Well, they know that I'm there for them. They know that I'm accessible. They know that they can ask questions that they might not feel comfortable asking anyone else, because like we are all in this together, and we from the ground floor, and I've made it clear I'm in this and I'm here for you. I want to make this as painless as possible, and I do my best to lead by example. So I have a Google Classroom as well. And I've set up Google Classrooms for teachers who may have been absent or out on leave. So if I can do it, and trust me when I tell you, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I enjoy doing it. And once they see the ease of use, I get a lot of positive feedback from my teachers now about using the platform.
And the one thing I want to ground our audience in is, the fact that Stacey has worked in some of, I would say, the most challenged school districts.
Absolutely.
Starting out her career in Newark, New Jersey, shifting over to Plainfield, ultimately residing in Irvington. And I can say from a firsthand basis, I watch how she brings a certain amount of positivity to her leadership style that I really applaud and encourage. And like you were saying, I'm called, you feel as if you're called for such a time as this. Schools, right, are oftentimes community hubs. Is it fair to say that?
Absolutely.
How can, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Schools and churches should be considered community hubs. These are places that are going to be staples in every community, and the citizens should feel that school is the second home. And I really do my best to make it feel like their second home. If you can't depend on anyone, you can depend on your school, the principal, and the church in every community.
And so now, with social emotional learning being not only a strong theme, what do you believe social emotional learning is going to look like, and how can it take place during this time from your perspective?
Okay, well, it does take place now because we see that the feelings of everyone should be honored, especially our children. They they've not experienced anything like this, and it's hard for them to process their feelings. And as adults, we have a responsibility to honor their feelings and make them feel comfortable, even though this is a very uncomfortable time. I feel that as a parent, my job is to make sure my kids are happy. As a principal, it's my job to make sure my students are happy. And how do we do that? By providing as much as we can through our platform. For example, academics, of course, are very important, but we got to have some fun sometimes. So, like when I have staff meetings, we might have a scavenger hunt before we actually get into the heavy duty lifting of the staff meeting. And in the classroom, the teachers can do the same thing. We can do a restorative circle before we start teaching. We can have a counselor come in and talk about feelings before we start teaching. We have conversations or put questions in the chat that can be addressed after the teaching. Everything, yes, it's a school, and academics are very important. However, how you feel mentally, how you feel emotionally is more important, because you really can't get through to a child that's going through something. So I try to make it a positive experience, make this a happy place, even though we're going through. Smiles take things very far. If we're smiling, if we're happy, it really does help. And again, the positive feedback that I'm getting from the teachers when I peek in our live sessions, they're very positive, they're very motivating, and I haven't had one complaint about a negative experience in the Google Classroom yet.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I think first of all, great response, and it shows that you are, a leader in this field. But there's also something that kind of touches me as it relates to your leadership. I have the pleasure of taking a meeting with you in your office um, before, and there is a poster that you have on your wall that speaks to um, a child. It's a poem that comes out of a child's voice, and it speaks to, kind of what you don't see with
Hmm.
that child. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, it's called "Because I Ain't Got a Pencil." And basically, what it's talking about is the things that the teacher does not see in a child's home. For example, the narrator of this particular poem takes care of his younger siblings,
Mm,
doesn't get enough sleep. And then when he comes to school, the teacher's griping about him not having a pencil. And I usually open most school years with that poem to help teachers realize that what we see in front of us is not always what it appears. These children really do go through a lot, and we
yeah.
have to be sympathetic and empathetic to what they're going through. They don't have to tell us their whole story,
Mhm.
but we should still recognize that it's not always about me, it's about them. And as long as I feed them emotionally, and as a teacher, as long as I look beyond the person I see, I'm going to be effective, because I'm going to say this, and I think anybody can tell you, if students don't feel cared about, they're not going to produce for you. If they don't like you, they're not going to produce for you.
Wow.
And I can't find one philosopher or expert in education who can say differently. If
Mm.
they don't feel cared about, they're not going to produce. If they don't like you, they're not going to please you. And it really is just that simple.
Once again, we are here with Stacey Love, the principal of Thurgood Marshall Elementary School in Irvington, New Jersey. What a pleasure it is to have her on the show today. I know that she's a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta
Yeah.
Sorority Incorporated. Many of you may or may not know that. But in addition to, your work that you've been connected to in community, let's talk about resources. Let's talk about resources. There's a lot of dialogue right now, Stacy, around the lack, if you will, of resources as it relates to our families and young people during this time period. How have you fared as it relates to resources for your school?
Well, I'm happy to report that we have been able to put Chromebooks in the hands of every student who has needed one. Um, I didn't think it was going to be possible. But one of my missions when I first got to Thurgood Marshall, so my goal is to make this a one-to-one school.
Mm.
So first thing I did when I got my budget was buy more Chromebooks.
Can you unpack
And
that a little bit for the audience in case they don't know what a one-to-one school is, what it means?
a one-to-one school is where every student has a device. And ideally, it would be a device that they can take home. And because of this pandemic, it is a device that they can take home. So everyone who wants one has one. And I'm very proud to say that, because when I was saying, I thought maybe it would be a 3-year uh, endeavor. However, right now, no one can say that they haven't been properly equipped. And right now, our issue is making sure the they have internet connectivity in their homes, and we're doing all we can to make sure that happens as well.
Very good. I've been hearing some wonderful things from different sources about what's happening in Irvington at this time, and that leads me to the fact of the matter. I mean, this work in education is not an easy one,
Not at all.
to say the least, right? And there's so much that goes into the role of principal. Obstacles. Let's talk obstacles. Obstacles are reality.
Absolutely.
Have you had some obstacles in your walk here that you can observe and spot out, and what obstacles were you able to overcome in at this time period?
Okay, well, the first obstacle is making sure that the message gets out. It's very hard to ensure that everyone hears it and hears it the right way and responds appropriately. So sometimes you do have to go above and beyond. I'm not past calling every home to
Mm.
make sure I speak to a parent if I don't see, if I notice that someone hasn't signed in, I'll call because it's been 8 weeks and we should definitely know where our babies are.
Mhm.
So I will call, I will find you. So yeah, one of the main
I like that.
obstacles is making sure that we maintain that connection,
Yeah.
to open the lines of communication. That is very, very difficult. And it seems like it shouldn't be, but it really is. I have had students who um, haven't signed on, and I have to find them, and I will.
So, like, and do you see that as as in this time almost like a partnership with the parent in a different way, because that home instruction piece takes on a new light as it relates to who's in the home instructing.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have to stress to our parents, it's on you. I'm going to give you all the food, but you still have to eat it. I
Mm.
need you to do this part for me. I'm not here anymore to make sure these kids do what they're supposed to do. This part is your part, and I need your help. And for the most part, they do understand it. And if I say 9 o'clock is sign in time, it can't be 9:30. I need you to make sure everybody's up, everyone's fed, and everybody's on at 9 o'clock. And that's your job, mom. I need you.
We're here with Stacey Love, the principal of Thurgood Marshall Elementary School in Irvington, New Jersey. And it is clear to see that this ship is being steered in the right direction under her leadership. Um, let's talk about advice for others. Um, it's incredibly challenging right now to teach at this time.
Mhm.
You see how the world is kind of moving with everything regarding virtual graduations, and we're not sure about these young educators who are coming out of school right now, what their future
Yeah.
looks like. What do you say to future educators at this time, as someone who has had the experience that you've had in the educational forum and arena?
You're getting in at a very unique time. You're getting in at a time that all your gifts are going to be used and utilized at a very high level. You have to understand that this is temporary. Even though temporary may be long, it's
Mm.
still temporary. Is going to be over. And you are going to be stronger and better for it. That's how I feel about it. We can focus on what we don't have. We can focus on what we need, or we can capitalize on what we do have and what we don't need and make the best of a difficult situation. And again, as the educators, as the adults, it's our job to make this as seamless and as painless as possible for these kids because they don't understand this at all. And you're doing a good job when they're still smiling in spite of, knowing that they can't really go anywhere and they're still happy because they're with you, because you have given them an environment that's nurturing, an environment that shows that you want better for them. And again we can focus on what we don't have and what we need, or we can capitalize on what we do have and what we don't need. And again, you have the device, you have these people on who are ready for you every day. And
Mm.
as a somebody who's going to get into this field, again, you're getting in at a very good time because you see what it's like to do with bare bones. And again, you're capitalizing on your creativity now and being your best because you have to bring your A game to this type of show. You really do.
This is the jewel we have in Irvington. This is the type of leader we have out of Stacey Love, one who, um, I will say, constantly looks at the silver lining, even on a gray cloud. Her optimism is one of the main reasons why I think, that Thurgood Marshall Elementary is in great hands, and Irvington is made better because of her leadership. I've had the honor of working with her in different capacities, and I've been able to see her effectiveness in our community and our parents. I'm going to say this on behalf of parents and students. What a blessing and an honor it is to have someone like you in the role of principal. And I can only imagine, whatever your goals and objectives are, wherever you put your time and energy, young people and families will be made better with you as an educator. Is there anything that you want to share, or anything that you've noticed or experienced, or any particular success story that has occurred throughout this circumstance or throughout this time period, that kind of stands out to you, or anything that resonates with you that you maybe want to kind of share with folks?
Yes. And I'll make it a personal story, okay?
Okay.
Because again, like I said earlier, I'm on the parent side as well.
Mm.
And as a parent, you want the best for your kids. You really do. And my kids go to Thurgood Marshall School. They're students there. And my third grader, my son, was getting a very rich experience with the online platform. But my daughter, her teacher's on maternity leave. So she really wasn't getting the same type of interaction. And she's a very social child. She needs that interaction. So she basically was doing iReady, which doesn't require a lot of interaction. You still have to have a device, but you don't get to see your friends. You don't get to see your teachers. So I set up the Google Classroom for her class. And I invited her classmates as if, I was a teacher.
Right.
And our special subject teachers, they're in that classroom as well. So on her first day in, she was the only child who showed up. But the library teacher also showed up, and they read a story together. And for 45 minutes, she got that one-to-one attention that she had been craving, and she's still talking about it. Wow. And I feel successful as a mother, and I feel successful as a principal that I was able to put together the platform to make that happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Stacey Love, the principal of Thurgood Marshall Elementary School in Irvington, New Jersey, and someone I am proud to call not only colleague, but friend. And this has been a great interview. I was really looking forward to this interview because, whenever you're around Stacey, it's kind of like being around some sunlight. As long as you can get in the midst of her, you're gonna get something. I'm serious. I'm not just making that up. This is not in my manuscript here. I'm telling you the importance. And if I feel like that, imagine how children feel when they see her and they can identify her. When I was a kid, the principal was someone that you did not want to see. But to have someone like her as your principal and as your leader in the school environment, it starts with our students, and it starts with them. And I know that your focus, and for me to ask you how your students are, how you are, how your educators are, and for you to give me a good progress report and update, it certainly is to be commended. As we kind of close out here, there's something that we want to be able to say with Education Now. The title of our show is Education Now. Yes. If you had to sum up what Education Now looks like and what Education Now means to you, what would you say?
Okay. Education Now. Thinking about COVID, this gap is definitely becoming more narrow. Now that everyone has to learn the same way, and we don't have excuses anymore. We can't talk that much about a digital divide. We can't talk that much about, again, what we don't have, because now everybody has it. And Education Now is going to start looking the same for everybody. And I'm very happy about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have been here with my friend and colleague, Stacey Love. Stacey, thank you so
Thank you.
much for joining us. And we're going to keep track of what you are doing
Yes.
in Irvington and even beyond, if those possibilities are there for you, which I know they will be. We appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing with that smile on your face and that joy in your heart. Thank you for joining us for
Thank
Education
you.
Now.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. And remember, as always, school's in session.